Zillow's got a brand new feature out that I think could be fantastic for home buyers, but I think sellers and agents in particular are probably going to hate it. Let's dive right in. Probably goes without saying, you mentioned Zillow and agents hating something, and that kind of goes hand in hand. But Zillow is now telling home buyers what they should potentially offer for what appears to be seemingly random properties. Now, I'm going to show you a couple examples. Some of them, it's like, why are they suggesting that you offer $65,000 over list price? Others are like, that's kind of a low offer range. But what they're doing that I think is interesting is they're starting to teach consumers that the asking price is only the asking price. It doesn't necessarily have to be the sales price. Redfin data shows us that somewhere between 10 to 30% of properties in most markets are selling above the listing price. There's also a pretty decent percentage of properties that sell below it. There was a book I read about 10 years ago that talks about some of the myths or lies when it comes to real estate. And one of my favorite points that I got from that book is that the seller's asking price is often meaningless. It's not based on comps. It's often not anchored in reality. It often doesn't take into consideration the condition of property. I've been licensed for the past 10 years, and we run into situations all the time with real estate agents where they don't understand how to price something because they don't understand what construction costs. They simply look at what Realist says or what the average of comps is and says, hey, let's list it at that or above that if I really want the listing. And it's not really anchored in reality. But the interesting thing with this is Zillow is now teaching home buyers outside of their real estate agents what sort of range it would be acceptable for them to offer on random properties. Let me hop into my computer and show you guys exactly what I mean. So we've got this property here in Lake St. Louis, Missouri. Property hasn't been listed very long. It's only been on market for 1 day. And if we scroll down here, we have this explore offer strategies. Now, the interesting thing, it says that this market doesn't favor buyers or sellers. So it's not a super hot market. It's also not people are fire saling stuff. And it just says the home's been listed for fewer days than the median. Consider placing a competitive offer. Now, the interesting thing here is a competitive offer in their book is over asking by a range of $9,000 to $15,000. Now, this is a cookie cutter vinyl village home, so it's totally possible that it sells for above asking. Interestingly, if you want to put in a strong offer, they recommend going in at $462,000, which is $17,000 over. And they have your offer as being moderate if you're at still $4,000 over asking, and weak if you come in at asking. So that's interesting to me. It really seems to be that they think this property is going to go for a bidding war. Now, the kind of frustrating thing with this is there's very little information out about this. In fact, if you Google Zillow offers, you find kind of their like failed iBuyer thing that they tried during COVID. And if you even Google Zillow offer strategies, there's still no like real detailed info that comes up. It's like how to make offers in a seller's market, how to get your offers accepted, tips and tricks for agents or navigating multiple offers. There's not like a, here's what this is, here's how it works, here's what it's based off of. Let's look at a couple others. So we've got this place here in Indianapolis, kind of a cookie cutter, older house. This one, I think, also has not been listed for very long. So it's been listed for 2 days. And on their end here, strong, they recommend that you're going to get, you basically be coming in, what's that, $22,000 over ask. Competitive would be $10,000 over ask up to $400,000. Moderate would still be over ask by, $4,000 to $10,000. And, you're you're weak if you're coming in at or below ask. So that's interesting. They have this particular property favors sellers, so that does make sense that they might think this one's likely to go quickly. Now, as I poked around, I was trying to figure out, like, is this somehow tiered to Zestimate? But on a lot of these places, Zestimate's not available. Estimated sales range isn't available. So that's pretty interesting. One that was pretty odd that they had it on, which was interesting, because I was like, maybe this is like, they're doing it for cookie cutter homes. Like, that's what they've figured it out on. But we look at some cookie cutter homes that were just listed. This one's little guy on a lake, just went live a couple hours ago, doesn't have it. So it seems like it's something that they're very much testing, like it's on just a random small amount of properties. One thing I have found, it seems like it goes away once the property gets marked as pending. This one is interesting because this is clearly not a cookie cutter house, particularly for this area, right? But they have it for this one. This one's only been listed for 6 days, but they've got a strong offer on this one, would be coming in $1,000 below list price. Whereas, competitive is $21,000 below. So it's hard to figure out, like, where are they getting the data from and how are they coming up with the exact numbers? But the interesting thing is a typical buyer would look at this and say, okay, $539, do I want to pay $539 for this house? Whereas now they might be like, would I buy it for $519? Which I'm a big fan of. I believe if you're buying a home for your family, you should get the best deal you can possibly get, because the typical selling costs on a property are anywhere from like 5 to 10%. So if you paid retail for a house today, you'd have to pay somebody else to get out of that house tomorrow, or take a little bit of a loss if you put a substantial down payment down. This is one of my listings that went pending, that they had a strong offer at $232. So a $7,000 discount off of, and they had a competitive offer as low as $223, which would be a 7% discount from the list price, which is interesting because that's not what comparable solds are looking like, or even other inventory in this market. One of my buddies saw one in his market that was a house listed at $560, and Zillow's recommended offer was $65,000 over the list price. So this is kind of feeling like Zestimate. You might be really happy with the number it's giving you, or you might not love the number that it's giving you. As far as I'm concerned, if I've listed a flip and they're telling people to make me an offer $65,000 over my listing price, thank you. Where do I sign and leave a tip? But flip side, if I've got a beautiful remodeled, custom design home and they're telling people, hey, go under list 6 days in, that kind of sucks too. The fact of the matter is, you've always been able to offer whatever you feel like on any listing, but typically real estate agents really pushed back on offering below ask by anything other than like a couple $1,000 for fear of like offense, or you not wanting to work with them, or them getting the reputation for like lowballing people. But I think you're going to have more consumers start to try to get better deals on real estate with this kind of data. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Zillow rolls this out on a more wide scale level, and if they're getting MLS data feeds in states that are disclosure states, to see how much more accurate this gets. If they're getting list price and sale price data, in theory, that algorithm should get better and better. One thing that is a little interesting with that is Missouri, one of the first ones we looked at, is actually a non-disclosure state. So they're not getting that sale data unless they're getting a direct MLS feed. Thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with me today. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. Talk to you guys next time.